1. Welcome back to the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. We are still celebrating our 100th review of NWA, Power including pay-per-views. That means I've got to bring on my guest, my NWA ride or die all the way from Scotland, Miss Fiona Lochran. Evening, Fee.
Evening, darling. You all right?
Yeah, does it feel like 24 hours since we last spoke?
Pretty much, yeah.
It was. Until you go off to Shetland and see some ponies.
I will.
And watch some wrestling. Anyway, enough about us. Let's forget about us because we had to make this episode big because it was as I say, it was our 100th episode of NWA that we reviewed. We couldn't get anyone any bigger than the star we got, not just in height, but he is the current holder of the £10 of gold. It is Mr. Thom Latimer. Afternoon to you, Tom.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. Here I am in sunny Florida. I have just got back from the UK, and I will say I was lulled into a false sense of security because the whole month there was amazing. It was like it wasn't as hot as Florida, but it was absolutely amazing, and it did really make me think maybe I should move back here. But then I know that it was, I got real lucky with that month.
It won't last long, you know it.
No.
Yeah,
No, but it was tremendous. But yes, thank you for having me.
No, thank you, Tom, for coming on. I was going to say, did you get a tan? But that's a ridiculous question, isn't it?
I did. Hey, I did manage to keep it there. It wasn't sucked out of me within 2 days, so that's a victory.
That is a victory. Indeed. Tom, look, let's go straight into NWA. Look, 77 is coming up very, very soon, the biggest NWA show of the year. But go back to 1 year ago, NWA 76. You finally kind of, this word gets used a lot now, finished your story, so to speak. But you was obviously trying to battle EC3. You managed to get the victory done. So you was in NWA 76 as a challenger. Now you come to NWA 77 as the champion. How is that different from last year, other than the fact you got the £10 of gold? Is there more pressure on you this year?
Yeah, there's always a level of pressure in pro wrestling. You're really only as good as your last match. There's never a point where, unless you're in the gold circle, where you're in sort of like a position where you can't do any wrong, and everything that you touch turns to gold. So there's always a level of pressure, whether I was world heavyweight champion or not. There's a bit of a track record, a history of people winning and losing the title there. So obviously, my plan is to walk in and walk out the same way I walked in, which is still the face of the place. I mean, I think if you go in there with any other ideas, then you're in the wrong job. But you never know. It's pro wrestling. It takes 3 seconds to win or lose, and that's something that I never forget. Because the second you start taking things for granted, or you look past people, then next minute you're looking at the lights, and it's all over.
It is.
True.
It is.
Very,
And
very
we done
true.
I got the great AI tool, Chat GPT, to predict the next 10 NWA.
I'm scared of all that, by the way. I've
Me
not
too.
participated in any of it, but go on.
Yeah, to predict the next 10 NWA World Heavyweight Champions after your good self. The person that ChatGPT picked to dethrone you was Thrillbilly Silas Mason. And funny enough, when I put that to Fee, I think on the show yesterday, you said, and I quote, because I'm not going to get in trouble for this, it's Silas Mason's time. Fee?
Now Tom's just staring at me going,
Hey, no, I was going to say, I was like, I don't remember ever saying that. You must be talking to Fee, yeah.
Yes, Fee, you did, didn't you?
I did. I think definitely Silas's time to challenge you at least, because I don't really think there's anyone else on the roster that could potentially take you to your limits.
I have stepped in the ring with him several times. He's no joke. He's probably there's obviously there's a handful of guys that I see as future world heavyweight champions and big stars in the future, if not that, slowly making their way into that sort of scene now. Carson Drake definitely being one of them, and obviously Thrillbilly. I never want to say like, he's let's let's give him the belt. Yeah, let's, because ultimately, like, he's taking money off my table, and you know, he's a big threat to me, and I'm fully aware of that. And every time that we have been in the ring together, it's a hoss fight. I know that I'm going in there with a guy that will and can destroy me, and so the saving grace is I've been around the job long enough and know all the tricks to be able to you know, maybe outsmart him or out cheat the guy if I need to. Because I also think this, right? I want to be the man. I want to be the champ, and I want to continue to be the champ. And you know, whether that is by doing it the right or the wrong way, I still want to be world heavyweight champion. So you know, I'm not saying that, you know, do I want to be a guy that's going to thump someone in the eyes or blast a guy from behind? No, I don't. But also, at the end of the day, if that means that I'm going to win or lose, then I'm going to do whatever it takes to do that. And I think he's aware of that. But he's definitely someone that has been on the radar for a long time. I know he's someone that's gunning for me. We just got done at TV. I don't know how much I can sort of go into details. But let's just say he's definitely not my big pal at the moment, and he definitely doesn't have my best interest at heart. Let's put it that way. And so, you know, he is, for me, if I was to, you know, go on a PlayStation game and do a create a pro wrestler, he's the kind of guy that I would create, and he's the monster that I would want running the company if it wasn't myself.
There we go.
Fair
Well,
enough.
you've given him at least a little bit of an ego drive. They're not that Philbilly needs one.
He's one of the best. He truly is. He's absolutely fantastic at it. He's made for this. He ticks every single box. You know, I don't have enough good things to say about him. At the same time, he is my biggest threat. So as much as blowing smoke up his ass is all nice and everything, he's also my biggest enemy.
Friend of your friend is an enemy, right? Is that what is that the saying?
Something
Didn't
like
they
that.
say? Yeah, didn't they say? Well, it's been a long day. I forgot what the analogy is, but I think it's keep your friends close, your enemies close, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll stick with that.
Obviously, in the run up to 77, now we are quite far behind on what we're viewing, so we've not even seen the Crockett Cup or anything like that yet. But a couple of weeks ago, we got to see what I can only describe as the batshit crazy mint julep match with Aaron.
Yeah.
How was that for you?
So he's a guy that, and I've done a few promos kind of touching on that. He's literally one of the first people, one of the, you know, group of people that I met when I first got off the plane in 2010 and joined FCW, NXT WWE. And you know, he's a guy that had already traveled the world. He'd already been on SmackDown for a certain amount of time. He'd already put in his time. You know, he'd already been there and done it. That before this young whippersnapper, this green young whippersnapper showed up. So you know, he had to go through the system again, but Aaron is phenomenal. Again, he's one of the best in the world at what he does. I mean, there's so many guys that are just good at what they do, and he's probably a guy that's too good, because Aaron is a guy that can turn you know, dog poop into money, and he does that time in, time out, whether that's by himself, reinventing himself, or if that's helping other talent. He's just got a mind for this business. He just gets it in every single way. And so for me, when I first joined, obviously he's a bit grizzled. He's been around a lot longer than me. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm coming into developmental. And so, you know, I'll say it first. We probably didn't see eye to eye very much. You know, I can't say that I was the biggest fan of him. You know, and I say that all over the world because I love the guy to death. But obviously, he didn't have much respect for me. You know, I'm coming in there. You know, I'm clogging up a spot, and I don't know as much as he does. And he's already been around all these idiots for years and years and years. He's got to deal with another idiot that's coming around, right? So me and Rampage Brown actually were sort of super glued for about, I don't know, 4 or 5 months to him and Titus, because Aaron back in the day was sort of given the duty of raising Titus up to a competent level. So they were tag champs, I think, at FCW. Me and Ollie had a sort of program with them, and just from day one being around Aaron, you can't not learn. You can't not learn anything and everything from him. He, again, like talking about Mason, he's a younger guy, but one of the best. But Aaron is honestly just gold in everything that he does. And I'm not saying that just because he's a friend of mine. Like, I look up to him, I respect him. He's literally one of the best in the world at what he does, and he's just phenomenal. So for me to be able to, all these years later, be in a program with him and do all these sorts of things and have this mutual respect for each other now, for me, it was magic, because I just love being around him. There's not a second that I'm not going to learn something by being around him.
Yeah, he certainly was. He said, well, that match was certainly something. I'll tell you that. That was one of the matches that me and Fee were just sort of talking about, going, what just happened? Which was brilliant. It was actually fun. But going back to Aaron just briefly, does he perhaps not get the credit, or maybe not have the career that perhaps he should have done elsewhere?
100%. But Aaron's that good that, unfortunately, it can be a curse where you are that good that you're sort of used, or can be used in a way to help elevate everyone else, because he's a guy that you can put in any position and he'll turn it into gold. And so, yeah, he's a guy that should have got all the accolades in the world, and because he's that good, it actually went against him, or has gone against him. And that's the weird, wacky world of wrestling that we're in. Because if you know the job and you've been around the job, I know exactly the type of person, the type of wrestler, the type of talent that he is. But not everyone is going to see that. And to me, you're absolutely blind if you don't see that. I mean, he's just phenomenal in everything that he does. He is undeniable. And that match was quite funny, because it's kind of a little snippet into the brain of my boss. It's got Billy's fingerprints on it, because that's the crazy, wacky world that we're in the NWA, which for me is great, because it's, again, we're mixing old with new. We're bringing the pro wrestling, but we're also coming at it from a crazy rock star's point of view, and it's its own unique, sort of amazing, weird professional wrestling company that we work for, and it's different.
Oh yeah, but it's great. I always say this when we talk to the NWA talent. What I love about it, and it, because obviously growing up, or sort of late 80s, early 90s, when Sky first come out and we could watch WWF for the first time. And I always say what I love about the NWA is it's 2025 wrestling with the blend of the late 80s, early 90s, where Damage hits you with a drop kick from BFT, the match is over.
Finish.
Yeah. Love that. I absolutely love it. I just want to go about Billy, because he's done this job on NWA. I mean, I've only been watching NWA Fee now 2 years, probably around 2 years that we've started putting this together. I always say Fee always introduced me into NWA. She used to post stuff on Twitter with watching NWA with a cup of tea and I sat there and I she'd not long been on the show, and I was like, what's this? Is this like you watching the NWA of the time gone by? And she was like, no, this is a thing. And the job that Billy's done, though, from when I've watching it from 2 years ago up until now, and we spoke about this yesterday, Fee, and we spoke about it in a bit of detail the week before, the storylines that are now embedded. Because sometimes when you watch Power, we see your good self 1 week, and then it may be 6 weeks before we see that sort of kill the break off match, or what you're building to, but we don't see you, or we don't see your challenger. Nowadays, what we're seeing is a lot more like, for example, 2 weeks ago, the Slime Balls nicked your belt out the back of the car and things like that. So what we're now seeing with Power is an elevation where we're getting to, there's an end goal, what we're getting to, but we're now seeing it pan out weekly instead of having to wait 6 weeks. And I think that's a little touch that Billy's done that's made it so much better.
Yeah, I think it's a work in progress, right? Because it's the first sort of version of the new NWA. It's like anything, you got to keep revolving, you've got to keep moving with the times. And so it is a new way of being able to explain and dive deeper into storylines and to explain other than promos and the commentators who people are, what the background story is, where they're going, where the. So I think in due time that will also become a little bit more unified because TV is filmed XYZ out and the promos are also sort of filmed. So it's not, it's not exactly a cohesive unit right now. And I think, in time, because this is a new process, in time, these sorts of storytelling, these ways of being able to explain more about what's going on will become more cohesive. Because once I knew we were going to be getting into sort of more of the movie style aspect of being able to not only show and explain what's going on in the ring, but be able to have the backstage interactions and the off-site things. It's going to help build and bring those storylines together. Now that we've just started with Roku, it's a new opportunity for us to be able to get in front of the masses and be able to show what a great professional wrestling company we have, and for people to be able to get their teeth stuck into it a little bit more than it just being sort of your promos and your matches. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's old school pro wrestling.
Yeah.
But you have to sprinkle in a little bit of the new stuff. And so I think in time that's going to be a really great way of us to be able to explain exactly what's going on.
Yeah, we've definitely seen a lot of changes. Obviously, when the Light and One era started with Power, it was very much old school, kind of 70s, 80s style in the studio. And I must admit, I wish I'd been able to go to Atlanta and kind of get that vibe, because I loved that. I did obviously get a chance to see it in Nashville and things. But we've noticed the changes fairly recently. I think from a fan's point of view, it's been great to see you evolve with every season that comes through and see the changes in production and how things are moving kind of with the time, so to speak. So I'm really excited to see what happens with you moving forward.
No, me too. Me too. I'm excited about it. It's it's always new territory, and again, it's about being able to show the world what we've got going on. Because it's all well and good sort of being on a little bit on YouTube and X, but it's a bit like my mum. I'm like, hey, mum, if I wanted to send her something, like she's like, oh, I'm not on bloody X, So Roku, I guess, is a bit more accessible. I don't know what that looks like in the UK. I know, I have a Roku
It
TV
doesn't.
here. So that's maybe that's something again that needs to some sort of thing needs to be put in place so that the British or European people can have a bit more of an access to it. I don't know what that looks like yet.
Yeah, I'll not. I'll just keep my mouth shut. I'll go off on a rant again if I don't. But
Yeah, yeah,
long story short, it's not accessible. I've tried
right.
every way, even with
Yeah.
VPNs and everything, and I still can't get it just now. So I'm hoping that Billy and the powers that be do something to make it accessible for the rest of us.
And I'm sure they will. I just know that with everything, it's always baby steps
Yeah.
and things like that. And also, just being transparent. I'm not in the office. I don't know what really goes on there. I'm not. I don't have any say. It's not my territory, my business to be jumping in and sort of asking any of those things. And so I just do what I do, and that's go out there and kick some butt and I'm fairly good at that. But when it comes to sort of the logistics and anything that involves computers, AI, or having to do a bunch of writing, count me out of that.
Before I get on, I was going to ask about the territories, but I'm going to swap up a random question because I did see you post. I think it was on Instagram and when you was over here, and you had a load of chocolate, more to it,
Oh,
galaxy chocolate. And I wanted to ask you a question because I've fallen in love with a particular galaxy chocolate, as you could probably tell by the way that I look. It's mint galaxy chocolate. So my question is, did you
yeah.
try it when you was over here? The
I
mint.
did. I actually got it. I think I was back at Christmas at the time before, and I did try it then. I have I don't like harping on about it, and Fee knows anyway because Fee's been going down the same path as I, getting off the booze and getting clean and getting sober. And so, hats off to you, Fee, for doing that because it's no easy feat.
You're only too well aware. I appreciate that.
It's not, and especially in the UK, it's sort of acceptable. Everybody there drinks, and it's part of the culture, and it's how you grew up. And when I was 14, I was going to pubs drinking, and it was just normal. Whereas if you were to put, an English person that's normal in America, they would turn around and go, "You're a raging alcoholic," So for me, obviously, congrats. You are a
Thank you,
hero. It's
darling.
amazing that you're doing that and have done that and continue to do that. It's unbelievable. And for me too, I think it's about 6 years or just over. My mum too is just turned a year sober, and she was someone that I never thought would get sober. And so, and again, another person that they're English, so we don't have a problem. A couple of bottles of wine and I, what's wrong with that? And so, just like you, Fee, my mum getting sober is just unbelievable. She's been having a little bit of health problems and things like that. And so I think that helped, spearhead the idea to do it. But it just went to go to show her that she can. And my brother's just had his first baby. And, he's also someone that, hasn't had the greatest track history with alcohol. He's never got into trouble or been an idiot like that, like I have. But again, it's taken its toll on him one way or another. So he's also seeing that, and I think that's inspiring him to also go, you know what, I've got a kid now. It's time to get away from that, to not let the demons in. And so circling back to that, that's the reason why I had the problem with the chocolate, is because I'll always be an addict,
Yeah.
one way or another. I take, I do the Zen pouches or whatever, and unfortunately, it's hard for me to not have some vice in my life. But chocolate is probably, that's kind of the new booze for me. It's that bad that I literally spend hundreds of pounds on it. I think I spent about £100 when I was just in the UK just on flapjacks, because you can't get, sorry, I'm burping, you can't get flapjack here.
Yeah.
And so you should have felt the weight of that. And then I spent a couple £100 on chocolate. Just Kaylee is obviously now a big Cadbury and Galaxy fan. I've ruined chocolate for her here in America. She can't touch it. She absolutely despises it. So of course, everything that you saw me getting there was actually for her. The chocolate that I got was a whole other giant roller bag full of chocolate. I mean, the whole thing's just chocolate. So yeah, I'm a huge chocolate fan, and I figure, well, what's worse, being a boozer or eating a bunch of Galaxy? I'll take the Galaxy.
I'll take the Galaxy as
No,
well.
absolutely. Well, my hand luggage coming over the other year was hefty, thanks to you and your little.
Yes, thank you, Fee. Yeah,
You're welcome.
You were feeding my sugar addiction there, so I
I'm
appreciate
an
that.
enabler. What can I
You're
say?
an enabler. You're a Galaxy Cadbury enabler, yeah.
Definitely are. Tom, we're going to start to wrap it up briefly. So I just want to quickly touch on one other thing before I let Fee ask the final question. I want to talk about the territories, because we've seen an increase in that. We've seen a lot of territories. We've seemed to be starting some territory wars at the moment, Fee, with our territory program that we've been doing on the Hitting the Turnbuckle. But it's been really refreshing to see this. Obviously, it was such a big thing. I know the WWF at the time, when Vince took over, bought all the territories, and that all went to pot. We're seeing it now is such a great thing, because we're seeing these stars that are in the making. And we had Skylar Sparks, we've had Pretty Boy Smooth on recently, and obviously they've got all of the people like yourself, like Aaron, like EC3, Jazz has done a lot of work on there behind the scenes as well. But it's so exciting to see the future of the NWA with these territories. Just how important are they to the NWA's success in the future?
Well, again, it's a blast from the past, isn't it? And the more play, you got to remember, we're filming TV, and I might wrestle at TV, and then it might be 6 weeks before I wrestle at TV again. So let's just say, for me, I'm someone that I take independent bookings. I'm going to Canada tomorrow for MLP, and I'm still running around sort of on the independent scene, which means that I can still get my reps. And so, for the rest of the guys, especially if they're not in a position where they're booked out a lot, it's a great way for them to be able to continue to get reps, and a great way for the boss to be able to see who the future next person that he wants to bring to TV might be. It's a good way of being able to share talent and sort of it's in our own universe. It's a little bit like Vince taking over from back in the day and eating everyone up. But we're sort of, putting them all under the same umbrella. And so, again, even if you were just looking at it from a bare roots reps for the guys, it's fantastic. And it just gives guys an opportunity and a place to be able to go and do their thing in the hopes that, the boss man will see it and go, hey, he'd be good for TV.
Yeah, definitely. So there's a few names on our lists already, Fee. But look, Fee, we're going to start wrapping it up here. So look, you always get the final question as NWA is yours, and you've asked some absolute crack. You absolutely stumped Pretty Boy Smooth last week with your question. You asked Brandon Beretta what object of wrestling he would be if he, other than the wrestler, which was quite an interesting one. So Tom, I don't know what you're in for here, but Fee, go ahead.
Okay, so I know this is a little bit of a thing in the NWA locker room, having heard from one or two other individuals. So let's settle this once and for all. Who has the best tan in the
I knew it.
NWA locker room?
I knew you were going to say that, and I think you already know the answer to that. And it's somewhat, to Tim, who again, he's one of my heroes, idols. He's one of the best human beings on the planet. Tim, I love to absolute death. As much as I would love to be able to say, not only am I the best in the world at what I do, the world heavyweight champion, and the guy with the best, Hollywood Hulk Hogan tan, unfortunately, Tim will never be beaten. And if there is a day that he's ever beaten, it's a day that I'll be really worried, because he's every time that I think I'm going to beat him, or any time I think that I've got him, impossible. He's just I didn't want to live about him. He just can't be beat. So, it would definitely be him. And then probably following behind that, if it wasn't going to be me, it would probably, I mean, EC3, he stays pretty,
Yeah.
he's pretty brown. But, again, I always heard the old saying from Arn Anderson that brown fat is better than white fat. So, for me, it's I used to be heavy. I used to be hairy, and of course, Kaylee actually hates the fact that I shave now. And well, I figured I've got into the best shape of my life. I'm at the back end of my career. I might as well show off. I'm a baby face. I might as well show off my physique for a little while. So I'm going to get away from the hair, and then when I turn heel, I'll probably cut my hair off, and I'll become hairy again.
Don't
And my
cut your
wife will
hair.
be, well, she's telling me it's time. So
No, no.
she's telling me it's time. Yeah, I'm paranoid about it too. I'm like, I don't want to be that guy that's got a few strands of hair on the, like Homer Simpson, and think that, I don't want to be that delusional. But yes, so come the time when I turn heel, I'll get hairy, and but the hair would hide a lot of the sins if I'd eaten too much chocolate. And it's a bit the same with the tan too. It just helps, I feel like if you could be as jacked as ever, but when you're white, it just doesn't look as good. But when you're brown, it just I don't know.
It
I'm
works.
old school when it comes to that. It works. I live in Florida. I should be pale as I should be
As
white as the
me,
guy.
Pasty Scott.
I should actually go straight to red, burn, and then right back to white. But I've been quite lucky in the years and years and years of sun abuse. Is sort of made me a color where people don't think I'm English.
You can say you look like, otherwise you look at the other end of it, look like Seamus, right? With the
Yeah. No, there's anything wrong with that, but it's just like I just love looking brown.
Exactly that. You like looking like the bar that you eat. in that
That's
sense.
it. Yeah, actually, it could be that. Maybe it's eating too much chocolate. Yeah.
Could be.
Good. Well, no, it doesn't work on me, Tom. So yes, can't be that. That's for sure.
Yeah,
But
you
look,
need to eat more.
yeah,
You're not eating enough.
exactly. Yeah, gonna need to get more Galaxy. We're gonna wrap it up right now, Tom. Because I appreciate we got you. You got us. You are very busy with your life, with what's going on at the moment as well. So before we go though, just to remind everybody, NWA 77 is literally only a month away. Tickets are on sale. Go to nationalwrestlingalliance.com. You can get your tickets there. Tapings happened yesterday. Lots of surprises. We've not been well. We do kind of know, but we're not going to say. Just watch it on X for while you can.
It looks, just to jump in, it looks really, really good. I was there sat in the back looking at the monitor going, oh wow, this looks good.
Exactly. If you want a taster of maybe who showed up, just go on the NWA Facebook page. They put somebody on the poster for 77 who is yet to debut, and we saw it the other day, Fee, but we didn't talk about it because we like to watch what we're watching on NWA for now. But of course, Tom, thank you so much for your time. Fee, thank you so much for yours. You're leaving me in the lurch next week. So everyone that watches NWA Power Review on this channel will only have me to deal with.
My bad.
Yeah, thanks.
We're going on a wrestling tour up to the Shetland Islands, Tom.
Yeah, oh, I'd love to go. I've never been.
Yeah.
Tell him if he wants a world champ there, I'll come down.
All right, come over next week and join us.
Exactly that. Well, obviously, if you ever want to come to Ignite, Tom, we've got a championship right there. If you want to bring one home, anyway.
Well, you know, I'm thinking about maybe again. It's on if the wife's up for it. But besides 77 being sort of the middle of August, my August is actually looking quite. There's not a lot going on, so I was honestly thinking that if the weather's been as good as it's been, the wife's not met my brother's kid yet. You know, maybe me and the wife will go back to the UK, pick up a few dates, see some family. So you never know. Maybe that's something we could do.
That'd be great if you could. Guys, obviously watch NWA on X for until the 28th, I believe. Then on Roku, me and Fee will try and find a way of watching it. And if we do, we'll let you all know. But from Thom Latimer, for the holder of 10 pounds of gold, from my Scottish pal, Fiona, and from me, Adam Cousins, we'll see you next time on the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. Until then, everybody, buckle down, stay safe, and goodbye.